Here with Steve Petrilli, the police chief with the town of Normal. Included in the annual report, the department in the last year got a grant to expand the automatic license plate reader program, ostensibly to combat retail theft. At last check, there were about more than 50 in town. How many are there being deployed at this point?
We've got 57 ALPR cameras now in total. And I can also, if I can, just kind of plug our open data portal that I can point people to, that if you go on to the Town of Normal's open data portal, and there is an actual transparency page that gives you all the information for how many cameras we have up and running, how many searches are being done, things like that.
And how effective have they been?
Very effective. The ALPR cameras are a great resource for our investigators, for our patrol officers. A lot of times it's reactionary, right? We're getting alerts, maybe on a hot listed vehicle that could be a vehicle that's stolen, a vehicle that was used in a crime, that officers are getting information on that vehicle that, hey, it's in a certain area, or maybe we have any type of crime that happens, that we have some type of suspect vehicle. We can go in, we can do a search on what we have, and ultimately that ability to search has led us to solving a lot of crimes and ensuring justice for the victim.
Do you intend to expand the program in the near future?
Right now, I think we're in a good spot. We've tried to plug the holes that we thought that we needed to have the best location, the best deployment of resources as it relates to that, especially in our retail areas on the east side of town. That was kind of our first focus with the grant money that we got, and we're looking to hopefully expand that to all the business districts, throughout the town.
Do you plan to expand into residential?
At this point, most of our, if not all of our cameras are on major thoroughfares. At this point, there's really no strategic plan to be moving into residential areas with the cameras.
And don't see a need for that then?
At this point, I think we're in a good spot.
I imagine that might cause some to be a little more hesitant about the exposure of those. Is that part of the equation?
I think with the exposure on the cameras, I think a lot of that goes back to education, and that's my responsibility, to get out in front of the community and address those concerns as they come up. That, look, these are not tools of immigration enforcement. These are not tools of surveillance. These are not tools of facial recognition. These are tools that we're using to locate vehicles that have been party to a crime, and that is the sole purpose of these cameras, is that we're able to solve crimes and restore justice for the victim in cases that we may be investigating a crime that's occurred here in town.
Normal Police now at 88 sworn officers, 76 male, 12 female, 16 minority officers in the last report. How close are you to full staff?
Very close. Actually, our authorized strength is going to be more on that just over 90, 92. And right now we've got I think 2 vacancies, but we've lined up 3 officers to go to the academy in May. So we're sitting in a good spot right now, right where we should be.
And as far as the diversity sort of ratio of female and minority officers, I know there was a goal to get up to 30% in female hires. Is that something that the department is still aspiring to?
Yeah, the 30 by 30 initiative is something that we have always. We always strive to make our department reflective of the community we serve. So that goes into aggressive minority recruiting, recruiting qualified females as well. So that's always been a focus, and we try to move towards that goal with every recruiting process that we engage in. Mm-hmm. I will say our numbers are good, but our recruiting, the amount of folks that we get to apply is definitely not where we want it. So is kind of a recruiting push. If anybody has any interest, please reach out to Community Services Officer Brad Park to get some information. Come in, do a ride along. It's a noble profession, a great town to police. So we'd be happy to talk to anybody, because we're always looking to increase our numbers from a recruitment and retention standpoint.
So with a smaller pool than you would ideally have, does that mean the standards are different?
No, that's a good question, because that's come up, and that's something that, as the chief, I've refused to lower standards. I don't think we're in a business that allows the lowering of standards. So in my tenure, I don't see that happening, as far as reducing standards for folks that we hire. And we have a system for that. We have a battery of tests that we put people through, psychological tests, polygraph tests, physical tests, medical screenings. There's a whole battery of tests that we put people through. A very extensive background check that includes some of the changes that evolved from the Massey Act. Looking at former employers and things like that. So we've got a robust hiring process. So we're getting good people. It's just the volume. I would really like to see that volume go up.
How many applicants do you typically get for one hire?
So we just completed a recruitment cycle. I think we had about 60 applications, but by the time we got through the physical testing, the personality trait screening, which is a cursory test on the front end, and then just the amount of people that actually show up, besides who put in applications, by the time we got to the interview stage, there was about 12. So that kind of gives you an idea of 60 applicants, and then we had 12 viable candidates that had passed the test and got to where they were viable candidates to interview.
How many officers that you bring on board come from other departments, and how many are new to policing?
So we have a lateral program where we try to aggressively recruit experienced officers. As you know, in law enforcement, there's been a changeover, kind of post-George Floyd timeframe, post-COVID. There was, an exodus within the profession. Let's just, be very frank about that the numbers declined across the country. So we've been in a rebuilding kind of stage for a period here. I see it rebounding. Like I said, the numbers aren't exactly where we want them, but I think we're still continuing to move in the right direction.
So if you're in the low 90s now, what was sort of the plateau?
So the lowest that we got, I think, was in the high 60s. I think we were at about 68 at one point, 2020, around that time frame. I took over as chief in 2022, so we've been building up from there. But that was the low point. That didn't last, an extraordinary long time, but it was long enough. And then we started getting folks reapplying for positions. And I think we've been successful with that. But to go back, I'm sorry I didn't answer your question with the lateral hires. We've had some great hires. We've pulled some people in from local agencies here. We've had a successful lateral hire from Texas. We'll be interviewing another one from Tennessee this week. So we still have people putting in for these positions, and I think that's super important, not only to recruit new officers, but the lateral hires help fill that gap. As I mentioned, that's where I was going with that exodus in law enforcement that happened. We have a young staff. We have a very young staff. So when we're able to pick up lateral officers that come to us with experience, we can use that experience to help kind of bring some more time in rank to the different shifts. And then we've also ramped up our training, tenfold from what we were doing probably 2 or 3 years ago. We have a very extensive training program. We've extended our FTO program, the basic academy.
FTO?
The FTO, field training program.
Field training.
Yes. So we've extended our field training program from 16 weeks to 20. The actual basic police academy is now 16 weeks. It used to be 14. And then from there, we've got a long probationary period where we're evaluating officers. So, but experience and the lack of experience, I think training is the next best thing that you can do. So we invest a lot in recruiting successful lateral transfer candidates, but also for our new officers, we train.
Anything else to add? Any other initiatives or programs or campaigns the department is engaged in now?
Yeah, so kind of moving into 2026, we took on a big agreement with Axon, being our kind of provider for a lot of equipment and technologies from body cameras to in-car cameras, the Taser 10s that we carry. We are integrating all of that technology into what we do now. So that's a big push in 2026 is to get that entire suite of products, that technology up and running. We're also aggressively pursuing a drone as first responder program that will be looking to hopefully yet late this summer be in a position that we can start using drones as first responders. So that's going to add a lot of advantage to all of the public safety elements, whether it's a fire call, whether it's a police call. Getting a drone, on scene has tactical advantages to it. It has just basic information advantages that can be relayed to folks that are responding. So we're excited to look at that program and where that may or may not take us. Recruiting initiatives, that's another thing. Like I said, I've already hit on that. Recruiting is a major focus of ours, not only recruiting new officers, but those experienced officers. So those are some of the things that are on our radar this year, and we're going to continue to work towards throughout 2026.